Before we dive in, viewer discretion is advised. This content is for entertainment purposes. What unfolds when a titan of the entertainment world enters the seemingly safe harbor of a late-night interview, only to find the host has engineered a trap destined to backfire, catastrophically? In this arena, we bore witness as Jennifer Lopez systematically dismantled Jimmy Kimmel on his own home turf, in a display of power that defies description. This was never just a celebrity sit-down gone awry. This was a tactical clinic on neutralizing a contemptuous host who mistakenly believed he could tarnish a legacy. Prepare yourselves, for the spectacle you are about to witness will shatter the very foundation of what you believe late-night television to be. The air was thick with unspoken warnings the second Jennifer Lopez graced the Jimmy Kimmel live stage. Something was fundamentally wrong. The customary glow of celebrity spectacle had been usurped by a frigid tension so potent the live audience felt its icy grip. And Jimmy, enthroned behind his desk, wearing that infamous smirk, had undoubtedly scripted a special kind of torment for his guest. His fatal miscalculation? Jennifer Lopez had come prepared for battle. Jennifer Lopez, everyone! Jimmy's voice boomed as the applause receded, laced with an edge that betrayed the gentle interview his team had guaranteed. It's wonderful to have you, Jennifer. Or is it J-Lo? Are we still in that particular chapter? Or have we moved on? A question cloaked in innocence, yet Jennifer's gaze sharpened with recognition. She had survived in this treacherous world long enough to know the scent of a baited trap. Jennifer is fine, she responded, her voice a calm river of ice, as she settled with the profound stillness of a monarch who had faced down empires far greater than this late-night host. Jennifer it is, Kimmel echoed, his shuffling note cards a piece of cheap theater. So, I must ask, because the world is clamoring to know, and if I'm being honest, so am I. It's been quite a turbulent year for you, hasn't it? The whirlwind of projects, the shifts in your personal life, the social media tempest that fueled global conversation. It's a dizzying affair. Jennifer canted her head, a phantom smile touching her lips but refusing to ignite her eyes. It's been a fruitful year, Jimmy. I'm profoundly thankful for every chance I've had to build, to perform, and to feel the energy of my audience. That is the truth of my world. Of course, Jimmy conceded, but a hunter's glint now shone in his eyes. But let's explore a few of those connections, shall we? Because whispers have become stories, and stories have become quite loud. Stories of imperious conduct on film sets. Stories of impossible demands placed upon your staff. Stories that paint a picture of, well, someone who is not the most pleasant collaborator. The studio was plunged into a vacuum of silence. This was not the lighthearted ribbing the audience had paid to see. This was a calculated, on-air assassination attempt against one of the most formidable artists on the planet. And the shift in gravity was felt by every soul in the room. Jennifer's spine straightened to steel, and when she finally spoke, her voice was imbued with the unshakable authority of a self-made queen. Jimmy, it seems there's a disconnect. Are you inquiring about my professional commitment, my work ethic? I would be delighted to discuss it. I have dedicated over 3 decades to this industry, and I have forged my entire career on a foundation of discipline, relentless dedication, and absolute respect for every person I collaborate with. If you have a legitimate question about my work, I will answer it. But if your intention is to launder gossip from the tabloids, then perhaps the more interesting conversation is about why you feel the need to do so. Jimmy's smirk momentarily shattered before he scrambled for his next line. Oh, Jennifer, let's not be so grim. A bit of harmless banter, he thought. A little friendly fire. The stories, the writers, the diva demands, surely. After all this time, she could see the humor in the narrative built around her. Tantrums? Jennifer's reply was not a question, but the calm before a storm, a stillness that filled the studio with dread. Jimmy, a question for you. When a man in this industry details his requirements to perform, to be comfortable, to excel, to execute his job at the absolute peak of his abilities, what is the term you use? Jimmy felt the heat of the lights, a bead of sweat he didn't see coming. I don't know. Professionalism? Precisely, Jennifer confirmed, her posture shifting, a predator leaning in. But when a faceless action, woman. And let's be very clear, a Latina woman, holds herself to that same high standard. She's not professional. She's difficult. She's, to use your word, throwing tantrums. So I have to wonder, Jimmy, where on that spectrum do your own contractual demands land? Because I have a feeling your dressing room, your schedule, your ironclad creative control over this very program didn't come without a few requirements. A hush fell over the audience, a collective intake of breath. This was no longer an interview, it was a reckoning. Jimmy's laugh was a hollow echo, a desperate attempt to reclaim the moment. Well, I mean, that's different. That's just, standard for television, he sputtered. Standard for you, Jennifer corrected, her voice like silk-wrapped steel. But a tantrum for me. One has to wonder at the mechanics of that, don't you think? His eyes darted off camera, a silent plea to his producers for an escape route that wasn't there. But the onslaught was far from over. Jennifer had weathered decades of men just like him, men who believed they could shrink her legacy with the poison of manufactured drama and lazy, sexist tropes. The part I find most fascinating, Jimmy, she declared, her voice resonating with a newfound power, is that you invite me onto your stage, and instead of discussing my work, the music, the films, the businesses I've built from the ground up, instead of acknowledging a career that has defied an industry that routinely casts women aside once they pass 30, you want to trade in whispers. You want to breathe life into tired stereotypes. You want to paint me as the monster in a fairy tale written by people who wouldn't know me if they tripped over me. Jimmy saw an opening, a chance to stop the bleeding. Jennifer, I think you're taking this the wrong way. Was I? She cut through his defense with surgical precision. No, Jimmy, I am taking this exactly the right way. I believe you walked onto this set with a game plan. I believe you decided that tonight was your night. The night you would try to corner Jennifer Lopez on live television. The one variable you failed to account for is that I did not build this life by allowing men like you to write my story for me. The camera, an unflinching eye, zoomed in on Jimmy's collapse, capturing the spectacular implosion of his ill-conceived ambush. This was more than a defense. It was a masterclass in deconstruction. Jennifer Lopez was taking apart the very foundation of his attack, piece by painful piece, with a precision born from a lifetime of being underestimated. The silence in the room was now a physical presence, a heavy shroud. Jimmy Kimmel, behind the fortress of his desk, watched his confident persona crumble into dust under the sheer weight of her truth. But in a moment of hubris, a fatal miscalculation, he chose to double down. "Look, Jennifer," he began, a captain foolishly trying to steer his ship back into the hurricane. "I think you're being a little oversensitive. It's comedy. It's entertainment. People want the real story, not some polished press release version of your life." A dangerous glint ignited in Jennifer's eyes. "Oversensitive," she repeated, savoring the word as if it were a poison she was now immune to. "Jimmy, you want to talk about what's real? Let me tell you what's real. The scoreboard, for those keeping track, shows over 70 million records sold worldwide. What's real are the films that have commanded more than $3 billion at the global box office. What's real is the empire I built, a dynasty forged in music, film, fashion, and fragrance. And yet, you want to discuss whether I am oversensitive?" A hollow laugh attempted to escape Jimmy's lips, but it died in his throat as Jennifer continued her advance. "Do you want to know what else is real, Jimmy? The fact that you just used the word oversensitive to diagnose a woman who merely pointed out your unprofessional conduct. That's what's real. That's the headline here. A late-night kingpin who believed he could corner a guest, only to find himself checkmated when she refused to be a pawn." A murmur rippled through the audience, a tide turning against its host. Jennifer had not just answered. She had seized control of the entire narrative, and the transfer of power was a palpable shockwave in the room. "Now, wait just a minute," Jimmy interjected, his voice cracking under the strain. "I'm not bullying anyone. I'm doing my job. This is the very nature of late-night television. We ask the hard questions. We spar with our guests. But Jennifer cut through his justification, her voice ablade. "Jimmy, there's no we in this arena. You were the one who made the decision to ambush a guest who came here in good faith. You were the one who chose to peddle damaging stereotypes instead of hosting a meaningful conversation. Do not dare pull your entire industry into the hole you've dug for yourself." Jimmy's face was now a rising tide of crimson. Off stage, his producers were making frantic, desperate gestures, but he was lost in the storm, pressing onward. "Jennifer, you're twisting this into something it's not. Seriously, come on. You have to concede that some of the narratives about your conduct, some of the things that have been reported. Reported by whom?" Jennifer demanded, leaning forward. "A predator closing in." "Name them, Jimmy. If you are going to sit on this national stage and implicitly call me a liar, then you will name your sources. Tell me precisely who told you these stories about my alleged behavior." Jimmy fumbled with his note cards, clearly unprepared for this level of pushback. "Well, I mean, there have been various reports, industry sources, people who are familiar with the situation." "People familiar with the situation," Jennifer repeated, her tone dripping with derision. "Jimmy, do you hear the words coming out of your mouth? You invited me onto your program to execute a character assassination based on phantoms and whispers. Do you possess any understanding of how profoundly irresponsible that is? Do you grasp the damage that inflicts?" The studio audience was no longer a neutral territory, it was now her fortress. Jimmy could feel the ground giving way beneath him, a collapse happening in real time. But instead of a strategic retreat, he committed another, more fatal error. "Jennifer, I think you need to calm down," he uttered. And in the instant those words left his mouth, the very physics of the room seemed to alter. Jennifer leaned back, a smile spreading across her face that was both magnificent and utterly terrifying. "Did you just tell me to calm down, Jimmy?" He knew it instantly. The self-inflicted wound. The point of no return. But the words were out, and he could not call them back. I just meant you. I know, perhaps we should take a moment." "No, no, no," Jennifer said, holding up a hand to silence him. "You just told a woman, on national television, to calm down after you spent the last 10 minutes attempting to humiliate her with baseless gossip. Jimmy, do you have any earthly idea what you have just unleashed?" The lens of the camera was an unforgiving eye, capturing every nuance of Jimmy's escalating panic as he realized this interview had spiraled into a public execution. Jennifer Lopez was no longer merely defending herself. She was delivering a masterclass on how to dismantle disrespect, and she was doing it with a grace and power that made Jimmy looked smaller and smaller with every passing second. "Let me illuminate something for you, Jimmy," Jennifer continued, her voice now a force of controlled, unwavering steel. "I have been dealing with men precisely like you for my entire career. Men who think they can diminish me, who think they can make themselves look bigger by making me look smaller. Men who think that because I'm a woman, because I'm Latina, because I came from nothing, that I should be grateful for whatever scraps of respect they're willing to throw my way." Jimmy tried to interrupt. "Jennifer, I never said anything about your background. You didn't have to say it explicitly, Jimmy," she cut him off. "It's in every question you've asked tonight. It's in your tone. It's in your assumptions. It's in the fact that you thought you could get away with this kind of behavior in the first place." The audience was completely captivated. Now, this wasn't just a celebrity interview anymore. This was Jennifer Lopez, delivering a speech that would be talked about for years to come. "You want to know what real diva behavior looks like, Jimmy?" she asked, standing up from her chair with fluid grace. "Real diva behavior is thinking you can invite someone onto your show and then spend the entire time trying to tear them down. Real diva behavior is believing that your platform gives you the right to spread rumors and perpetuate harmful stereotypes. Real diva behavior is telling a successful woman to calm down when she refuses to accept your disrespect." Jimmy was visibly sweating now, completely out of his depth and clearly regretting every decision that had led to this moment. But Jennifer wasn't finished with him yet. Jimmy sat frozen, behind his desk, his face a mixture of panic and humiliation as Jennifer Lopez stood before him, radiating the kind of power that can't be manufactured or faked. The studio audience was completely silent, hanging on every word of what was becoming the most spectacular takedown in late-night television history. "You know what, Jimmy?" Jennifer said, her voice carrying across the studio with crystal clarity. I think we need to have an honest conversation about what just happened here tonight. Because this isn't really about me at all. This is about you. Jimmy opened his mouth to speak, but Jennifer held up her hand, and somehow that simple gesture commanded more authority than anything he could have said. This is about a man who built his career on the premise that he could make jokes at other people's expense and call it entertainment. This is about someone who confused cruelty with comedy and thought that no one would ever call him out on it. But here's the thing, Jimmy, I'm calling you out. The camera zoomed in on Jimmy's face, capturing every bead of sweat, every nervous twitch, as Jennifer continued her methodical destruction of his credibility. Let me ask you something, Jimmy. In your preparation for this interview, did anyone on your team suggest that maybe, just maybe, you should focus on my actual accomplishments? Did anyone think it might be interesting to talk about the fact that I'm one of the few artists who has successfully transitioned between music, film, television, and business? Did anyone consider that your audience might actually want to hear about my creative process, my upcoming projects, the lessons I've learned in 30 years of entertainment? Jimmy tried to nod, but the gesture came across as pathetic rather than agreeable. We could certainly talk about those things. No, Jimmy, Jennifer interrupted, her tone suggesting that his time to participate in this conversation was over. We're not going to talk about those things now because you made a choice. You chose to turn this interview into an attack. You chose to prioritize gossip over substance. You chose to disrespect not just me, but every woman who has ever been labeled difficult for having standards. The audience was beginning to applaud slowly at first, then with increasing enthusiasm as they realized they were witnessing something historic. But here's what I find most interesting about tonight, Jimmy, Jennifer continued, pacing slowly into front of his desk like a prosecutor delivering closing arguments. You seem to have forgotten that I didn't get to where I am by accident. You seem to think that my success is some kind of fluke, something that happened to me rather than something I created through decades of hard work, strategic thinking, and refusing to accept less than I deserve. Jimmy swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing visibly as he struggled to maintain some semblance of composure. So, let me remind you of a few things. Jimmy, let me remind you that when I started dancing on In Living Color, people said I'd never be taken seriously as an actress. When I got my first film role, they said I'd never be a leading lady. When I decided to pursue music, they said I'd never be a real singer. When I started my businesses, they said I was just a celebrity trying to cash in on my fame. With each statement, Jennifer's voice grew stronger, more commanding, and Jimmy seemed to shrink further into his chair. But here I am, Jimmy, still here, still successful, still creating, still proving people wrong. And do you know why? Because I learned a long time ago that the only way to deal with people who try to diminish you is to shine brighter than they ever thought possible. The studio erupted in applause, but Jennifer wasn't finished. She waited for the noise to die down before delivering what would become the most quoted line of the entire exchange. You brought me on this show tonight because you thought Jennifer Lopez would be an easy target. You thought you could make yourself look clever by making me look foolish. But what you forgot, Jimmy, is that I've been underestimated by better men than you, and I'm still here. Jimmy's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. But no words came out. Let me tell you what's going to happen now, Jimmy, Jennifer said, walking back toward her chair, but not sitting down. Your viewers are going to see this interview, and they're going to make their own judgments about who handled themselves with class tonight and who didn't. Your colleagues in the industry are going to see how you treat your guests, and they're going to remember that the next time someone considers appearing on your show. The camera captured Jimmy wiping sweat from his forehead with a tissue, his carefully crafted television persona completely shattered. But most importantly, Jimmy, young women who are watching this are going to see what it looks like when someone refuses to accept disrespect. They're going to see that you don't have to smile and nod when someone tries to tear you down. They're going to learn that having standards isn't the same thing as being difficult, and that standing up for yourself isn't the same thing as being oversensitive. Jennifer finally sat back down, crossing her legs elegantly and fixing Jimmy with a stare that could have melted steel. Now, Jimmy, since we still have a few minutes left in this interview, would you like to ask me about my actual work? Would you like to? Hear about the projects I'm excited about, the causes I support, the things that actually matter? Or would you prefer to continue with your original plan of trying to embarrass me? Jimmy fumbled with his note cards, his hands shaking slightly. Jennifer, I think maybe we got off on the wrong foot here. No, Jimmy, she said firmly. We didn't get off on the wrong foot. You started this interview with the intention of attacking me, and I simply refuse to let you get away with it. There's a difference. The studio audience burst into sustained applause, and even some of the camera operators could be seen nodding in approval. Jimmy looked around desperately, clearly hoping for some kind of intervention from his producers. But none came. You know what the really sad thing is, Jimmy? Jennifer said as the applause died down. This could have been a great interview. We could have had a real conversation about art, about business, about the challenges and rewards of a long career in entertainment. Instead, you chose to waste everyone's time, including your own. Jimmy made one last desperate attempt to salvage the situation. Jennifer, I want to apologize if you what, Jimmy? She interrupted. If you offended me, if you crossed a line. Jimmy, there's no if here. You absolutely crossed a line. You absolutely behaved unprofessionally. The question is whether you're actually sorry, or whether you're just sorry that it didn't work out the way you planned. The final nail in Jimmy's coffin came when Jennifer stood up again, smoothing down her dress with the casual elegance of someone who had just won a battle without breaking a sweat. Jimmy, I want to thank you for this opportunity. Tonight. Not the opportunity to promote my work, because we both know that's not what this was about. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to show your audience what it looks like when someone tries to bully Jennifer Lopez, because, as you can see, it doesn't end well for the bully. As the show cut to commercial, the audience was on their feet, giving Jennifer a standing ovation that seemed to go on forever. Jimmy sat behind his desk, completely defeated, a shell of the confident host who had started the interview just 20 minutes earlier. Jennifer Lopez had walked into what was supposed to be a trap and instead turned it into a masterclass in grace under pressure, proving once again why she's remained at the top of her industry for 3 decades. This wasn't just an interview gone wrong. It was a complete dismantling of a host who thought he could take on a legend and win. What did you think of Jennifer Lopez's incredible response to Jimmy Kimmel's disrespectful behavior? Have you ever seen a celebrity handle an ambush interview this masterfully? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more incredible moments like this.